Good morning, Hot Springs Baptist kids, and happy Mother's Day. Hope that you guys are treating your moms really good today, making them some homemade cards, maybe making them some muffins, bringing them breakfast in bed, treating them how they deserve to be treated, especially during this time when they're juggling being your mom and your teacher and all of the above during this time of quarantine. So hope that you guys are treating them really good this morning, and mothers, hope that you have a really good day. This week we're going to be in Judges chapters 6 through 8. We've been in Judges the past few weeks, and we've just talked about the Israelites and the pattern of sin that they fell into during this time. So one of their leaders would die, and so they would fall back into this sin, and then God would punish them, and their consequence would be maybe a cruel leader or something like that. And then they would realize that, we had it really good when we were following God and doing what we were supposed to do. And so they would call out to God to save them, and God would, and He would send a new leader to rule over them. We talked about that the past few weeks, and this week we're going to talk a little bit more about that as well. The Israelites have done that again, and so if you would like to, we're going to look a little bit in Judges 6 through 8. If you'd like to read that whole thing, I'd encourage you to do that with your family. We won't read all of it during this time that we have this morning, but we will read a few verses here and there. So, the Israelites, once again, did not obey God. So we're here stuck in this pattern of sin again. And so we've learned with the pattern of sin, after they commit that sin and they disobey God, God would send in their punishment or their consequence. So this time, God allowed them to be ruled by their enemies, the Midianites. And the Midianites, they were very cruel to Israel. They would take their food. They didn't believe in God. They were just really cruel, really evil people. And they took the Israelites' food, their animals, and it just all around, it wasn't a good situation. So what did the Israelites do now? Can you answer that question? We've had the sin, and then we've had the punishment. So what happens now? That's right. They asked God to save them again. They realized how good they had it, and they called out to God to save them. So the angel of the Lord came, and he sat under an oak tree, and he appeared to a man named Gideon. Now Gideon was from the weakest tribe of Israel. He was a small guy. He was the youngest son in the family. So this kind of reminds me a little bit of David, and how he wasn't really the first option that we would have chosen to be a king. but God chose him, and he used him in miraculous ways. And so we see that a little bit here with Gideon, when God appeared to Gideon and said that he wanted him to lead this army. Now Gideon, he was afraid, and he kind of tested God a little bit during this time. We've probably heard about this story a lot with Gideon putting out the fleece to kind of test God and to see a sign from God. He wanted proof that this was actually God telling him that he needed to get this army together and lead them into battle. So he said, I'm going to leave this fleece out. In the morning, if the ground is dry and the fleece is wet, then I will believe you. And so the next morning, he got up, and there was enough water in that fleece to wring it out and fill a bowl. So God proved to him that day that this was actually him talking to him. But Gideon still needed a little bit of a push. So he said, okay, well, let's do this again, except tomorrow, let's make the ground wet and the fleece dry. And so the next morning he went out and the ground was wet and the fleece was dry. And that was enough proof for Gideon that this was what God was calling him to do. So the Lord had chosen Gideon to deliver the Israelites. And the Lord assured Gideon that he would be with him, just like in the past few stories we've seen some pretty impossible situations that God has delivered these people from. He's always had his hand in these battles and everything that the Israelites have faced. And it's pretty miraculous how he saves them every time when the situation seemed impossible. And so we're going to see that a little bit this morning as well. So when the time came to go to battle, Gideon blew a ram's horn, and an army of men gathered behind Gideon ready to fight. So the Lord told Gideon, you have too many men. So usually in war or battle, you want as many willing men that you can to go to battle with you. As many people as you can. You always want to have the higher number. You want to have that advantage over your enemies. But God told Gideon, he said, you've got too many people here. And so he told Gideon to tell the men that were scared, the men that didn't want to fight, that they could go home. So at this point, Gideon sent them home, and he still had 10,000 men. And God said, Gideon, this is still too many men. And Gideon was like, how am I supposed to fight this battle without, enough men to do the job? Well, God had this plan in place to where he would get the glory for all of this. And God put them in this impossible situation again so that he could show his power and to show how this could not be done. It could not humanly be done for these few men to fight this big army, but God's hand was in it all, and he delivered them. And so before they went to battle, they had just a few men. Let's see. Because after the 10,000 were left, God made a test for the people, and he said all of them were to go to the river to drink the water. Anyone who knelt to drink water was sent home. But whoever lapped the water with his hand to his mouth stayed. So, guess how many men were left when they went to battle? Just 300 men. That's not a lot to go into a battle with. 300 men were left. So, let's look at this battle. That night, Israel's army carried torches. They blew their trumpets and shattered pitchers. They ran toward the camp of the Midianites. Gideon and his army chased the Midianites, and they ran away. God gave the Israelites victory. The Israelites said, Gideon, you rescued us. Now we want you to be our king. Gideon said, no, God will rule over you. But after Gideon died, guess what the Israelites did? Yep, that's right. They fell back into that same old sin. And so they once again ignored God, disobeyed him, and forgot about him. So throughout the book of Judges, we see this recurring pattern, and it's amazing to me how every time God still saves them, even after, all of the things that they've done and that they continue to do, and they're just stuck in this pattern of this sin that they can't seem to shake loose. God still delivers them and saves them. And I think that's incredible, and it makes me really hopeful. So I've got a few questions for you this morning. How did God use the Israelites' weakness to show his power? So their weakness was that they only brought 300 men into this battle. So how did he use that weakness to show his ultimate glory? The next question I have for you guys is, how do you think Gideon felt about God's calling on his life? Remember that Gideon was from the weakest tribe. He was the youngest son, and he was not the ideal candidate for this position. So how do you think that made him feel, getting this calling from God? Gideon doubted himself, and as we see, he tested God, kind of tested him to see if this was really true, if this was really the path that he was supposed to take. And God showed him, even though you are weak, I am strong, and I'm the one that's going to deliver these people. I'm just using you as an instrument to do that. The last question I've got for you guys this morning is, are you ever afraid to follow God like Gideon was? How does Gideon's story help you handle your fear? I think in this time that we're going through with this virus, I think it's easy to be doubtful and to be fearful of the future and just everything that's going to happen. There are so many unknowns in the situation that we're facing today, but the thing that keeps me going, that keeps me hopeful, is that God already knows what's going to happen. He's holding this situation in his hands, and he's gone before us to work everything out, and ultimately he is going to get the glory from this. He will, because he always does. Just like the situation that we saw with Gideon today, this miraculous battle where he took only 300 men, and they came out victorious. And the only reason that they did is because God was on their side. God fought for them. And so I have faith that God is going to do the same thing for us in this situation. So with your families, I want you to talk a little bit this morning about what this story taught you about who God is. Ask if there were any promises that God shows during this story. And how does this specific story in the Bible help us to live better today? How does it apply to our lives in this moment? So with your family, just discuss those questions. On Wednesday night, we will have our hangout, and we're not going to do a Zoom hangout on Wednesdays. We're going to try to meet outside if possible. I'll keep you updated on what we're going to do there. But my hope is that we can meet in person together and just do that outside in a safe way. So that's the plan for Wednesday night. We still have our quarantine family challenge happening right now. Go on our Facebook and you can look at the rules for that. We'll be ending that on the 16th, which is next Saturday, and we'll be doing the drawing for that on the 17th, which is next Sunday. And so we're going to be giving away a Chick-fil-A gift card, and we would love for you and your family to participate in that. Just take a quick photo of what you guys look like in quarantine. I know for me, I'll probably be in my PJs and watching some movies and just kind of lounging out. So show me what your family is doing during this quarantine time, and tag our HSBC Family Ministry page, and then also hashtag HSBC Quarantine. Another thing that's coming up is our Mission Hot Springs event. We're going to be doing an appreciation for the staff at CHI St. Vincent, and we need you and your families to write a few letters of encouragement to these people who have been working so hard. They've been on the front lines of this, and they've been sacrificing their time and their health to keep all of us healthy and safe. And so we want to appreciate them. And so we're going to be delivering a meal to them, I believe, next weekend. So get your cards to us this week if you can. Just a short little note that says how much we appreciate them. And you can drop that off at the church or mail it to us, or on Wednesday night when we have our get together, you can bring that with you. I hope that you guys are having a fabulous Mother's Day and that you are getting to spend some time with your family. I know a lot of things are opening up now. We're holding off on reopening the church at this time, but we'll keep you updated. We're working really hard to get a plan into place to get you guys back in church, and we hope that when we do get the chance to get back into church, that you'll be there and that you'll be excited just to gather with other believers. And I know I'm super excited about seeing all of you guys. It was great seeing you on Wednesday, getting to fellowship together after such a long time apart. So hope that you guys have a good day, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Thanks.